right, so now we're going to work on the next two problems. Number one says solve for a, and we have 2a squared minus 4 equals a. Round your answer to the nearest hundredth. So what we're going to do here now is we're going to make sure that we have it set equal to 0, which it's not. So that means we're just going to subtract a from both sides. Make sure we write it in descending order, which is 2a squared minus a minus 4 equals 0. Okay? Next step is label your a, b, and c. So a is equal to the number in front of a squared or x squared. It doesn't matter the variable, which is 2. B is the number in front of a, which is equal to negative 1. Because if you remember, there's an invisible 1 there. And then c is our constant, which is negative 4. Okay? Next step is write out the formula. Now, this is going to be hard for me because there's not a lot of room here. So I just want you to know I probably am going to have to erase the screen. So we have x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Next step 4. Write the skeletal framework. So we're going to keep everything the same. X equals negative, but then I'm going to put a b as parenthesis. And then I'm going to put, plus minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac. Now, those are my parentheses. AC all over 2, and then I'm going to put my little number here, A. So that's for your skeletal framework. Now the next step is going to be fill in the numbers. So now the first thing is we have to look at the first letter. The first letter is B. So I'm going to come over here. B is negative 1, so I'm going to put negative 1 in there. I'm going to keep it in blue. And then the same thing, plus or minus square root of b squared. B squared is negative 1 minus 4a. A is 2. C is negative 4 all over 2a, which is 2. Okay? Now we have to calculate the 3 spots. The 3 spots are, I'll circle it in yellow. This guy here, under the radical, and in the denominator. So I'm going to write x equals, and in my calculator, I'm going to now do the first spot, which is negative, parenthesis, negative 1, close it, enter, and you get 1. So I'm going to put that there. And then what comes next is plus minus, and then you have your radical sign, and then I'm going to plug everything onto the radical exactly as written. Parenthesis, negative 1, close it, squared minus 4 parenthesis 2, close it, open it, negative 4, close it. So it's exactly as written under the radical. Enter, and you get 33. So that number is going under the radical all over. Now notice I didn't touch the x. It's only on the right-hand side of the equal sign. Now we have 2 parenthesis 2. Just like we had in the prior example, it was 2 times 2, which is 4. So there you go. There's what you should have after calculating the quadratic formula. Okay? However, it now says separate it. And then in this one, it says round our answer to the nearest hundredth. So my first one I'm going to write as x equals 1 plus radical 33 over 4, and x equals 1 minus radical 33 over 4. So now what I need to do is plug those into my calculator and get it rounded to the nearest hundredth. So I'm going to put alpha, y equals in my calculator, number 1 plus second x squared to get my radical, 33, push down to get to the denominator, 4, enter, and I get 1.686140. Now, normally on our regents, I would say you have to write out the whole decimal, but because we're not taking our regents this year, just round it as is. So we get 1.69. Now the next one is I'm going to copy and paste it because I just have to do the subtraction of the other one. So copy, press enter, paste it, and then I go over and just push my minus in between it, press enter, and I get negative 1.186140662. Rounded to nearest hundredth would be negative 1.19. So that's how you would do number one, solving using the quadratic formula. All right, pause the video, make sure you get this down. Now on to number two. Number two, you just have to make sure you get it set equal to 0. So in order to do that, I need to add 2 to both sides. And I'm going to get 4x squared plus 7x plus 2 equals 0. Now what I have to do is I have to label my A, B, and C. A is 4, B is 7, C is 2. Okay? Next step, write out the formula. X equals negative B plus or minus the square root of B squared minus 4AC all over 2A. So make sure you pause the video and get that down. Now we're going to do the skeletal framework. So I'm just going to rewrite it. But every time I see a variable, I'm going to put parentheses. Plus or minus the square root. B is coming out as a parenthesis. B squared minus 4, parenthesis, AC, all over 2 parentheses. Okay? Now your next step is you're going to replace all those variables with the specific numbers we wrote down. So we have A is 4, B is 7, and C is 2. So in the first, we're going to do negative B, which is negative 7, plus or minus B squared. So it's 7 squared minus 4 AC. A is 4, C is 2, all over 2A, which is 4. Okay? Now the next step says calculate the 3 spots. So we're going to do this guy under the radical and this. So I have x equals, so negative parenthesis in your calculator, negative parenthesis 7 gives you negative 7 plus or minus radical. Now in the calculator, you're only plugging in what I circled. I didn't circle the radical. So you're going to do 7 squared minus 4, parenthesis 4, close it, open it, 2. And you should get 17. And then on the bottom is 2 times 4, which is 2 parenthesis 4, which should be 8. Okay. Now your next step is to separate it. Now I'm going to have to separate it this way. Okay, so we have x equals negative 7 plus radical 17, and x equals negative 7, over 8 minus radical 17 over 8. Now we're going to plug those into our calculator separately, and we're going to find the answer rounded to the nearest hundredth. So I use alpha y equals again, number 1. I'm going to do negative 7 plus second x squared to get my radical, 17 all over 8. And I end up with negative 0.3596117968. Rounded to the nearest hundredth would be negative 0.36 because the 9 tells the 5 go up to a 6. Now for the next one, I'm just going to copy and paste this entry so I don't have to rewrite it again. And then I'm going to do minus here, enter, and I get negative 1.39038820. So these are the solutions to this equation. Now remember, these are irrational numbers because they're non-terminating, non-repeating decimals. So those would be your 2 solutions, okay? So hopefully this worked, and what we're going to do is pause the video, make sure you get this down. and we're going to make sure that you send me pictures of the 2 classwork problems. See if you're getting it right. If not, I'll help you through it, okay? But showing me only answers will result in a 0. A lot of you are using what we call photo math, and that's not really learning. That's just copying answers, okay? So I want to see it on a piece of paper, whatever you want, and send it to me.